Welcome to the Winnipeg Sports Talk post-game reaction. Michael Remis here with Connor Hrabchak, recapping the first game of the Winnipeg Jets Dallas Stars second-round series, with the Stars taking it 3-2, and they now have a 1-0 series lead. Hey there. Connor, a lot of questions coming into this game. How would the Jets respond after playing an epic Game 7, winning in double overtime? And I had a lot of questions as well. What would the style of play be? The Blues came in just hitting everything. And how would it look here? I think we got the answer early. And also, Connor Hrabchak, I think questions about his play. He really stepped up in that overtime and quieted a lot of the critics. All right, Connor, coming into the game, I mean, what did you think of the atmosphere of the crowd coming into Game 1 and Mark Scheifele returning for the Winnipeg Jets?
Yeah, Mark Scheifele returning was huge because he gets back on that top line with Connor and Vilardi, and the rest of the line snap into place of what we've seen all season long, really. And there was a lineup change or a forward line change that we'll talk about later in the third period. But you had Connor, Scheifele, Vilardi. I thought they had a really good game. They had some moments where they were out of rhythm. It was their first game together since March 23rd, which was the game that Gabriel Vilardi got hurt. And then Mark Scheifele was back, but Vilardi was hurt. And then Scheifele left when Vilardi came back. So it was a very out of rhythm game for the Scheifele line. But the other three lines were snapped into place as well. You saw the second and third line that we've seen all season long for the Winnipeg Jets. And the atmosphere pregame, clearly this crowd was amped. I mean, coming out of that Game 7, how could they not be? MVP chance for Connor Hrabchak. This has become the standard pregame for the Whiteout, and they brought it going into Game 1.
Yeah, 8:30 on a Wednesday. Well, 8:50 puck drop. Electric here as always at Canada Life Center. First period, the first 5 minutes at Dallas taking it to the Jets, outshooting them 8-0, but very noticeable early on that, in the previous series, it seemed like whenever a Jet had the puck, not a lot of room out there, being hit immediately. Dallas really not hitting at all, but they did generate a couple chances, and Hrabchak really saved the Jets and kept them in it early.
Yes, for sure. The shots to begin the game, I believe, were 9-0 for Dallas or 8-0. I don't know if they took a shot away there, but Connor Hrabchak, we talked about it going into this game, was overtime a turning point. I think if you were on the train that it was a turning point for him, I think this first period, you loved what you saw. He made a few key stops, one off of Mikko Rantanen, a 2-on-1 save off Wyatt Johnston, all confident saves at the top of his crease, looked like the big and boring Connor Hrabchak, and made high danger shots look routine. And that's what Connor Hrabchak does when he's on his game. And I think the Winnipeg Jets came into this game off of the greatest moment in franchise history, if you want to put it. There was going to be an emotional letdown. I really liked their response. Connor Hrabchak bailed them out. The shots were 9-0 to begin the game. The Jets had the next 9 shots, even drew a power play as well. So I did like the Jets' response in this first period, but a big emotional letdown coming out of that Game 7 to start this Game 1.
Yeah, and the Jets got their first shot on goal with 12:57 remaining in the first on a long dump in. Got some sarcastic cheers from the crowd. But after that, they started to ramp it up with the offensive play. Lowry with the tip chance. Vilardi finds Kyle Connor at the side of the net for a chance. And we get a look at the Jets' power play with 6:30 remaining. Mason Marchment hooks Neil Pionk on the arm. And this is really the first time in a long time we've had Vilardi, Scheifele, Ehlers, Connor. No Morrissey, he's injured, but Neil Pionk stepping in. And this was, 4/5 of the number one power play in the NHL. This season, and I thought the movement definitely looked very solid there, and that first power play.
Yeah, I think the power plays got worse as the game went on. The Jets ultimately went 0 for 4 in this one, but I thought the first couple, they looked great, and it was those 4 forwards, like you said, playing their first power play sequence together and how long. Mark Scheifele was asked about that after the game, whether or not he thought, them not all being together on that power play maybe contributed to a little bit of the rest. He said a little bit, but it was more execution, and I'd have to agree, because the first couple, they looked like that same power play unit that finished the league first in the league during the regular season and slowly deteriorated and got worse as the game went on. Dallas came into this series with an 86% penalty kill, so their penalty kill was a strong point of their group coming in, and the Jets' power play has to improve. I think if you're looking for the number one reason they lost this game, I think it's fair to say that the 0 for 4 on the power play. It's a 1-goal game. You're on home ice. You play better than the Stars for the majority of it, and your power play kind of lets you down. I think that's where I'm at with the power play.
Yeah, special teams the key difference in the game. The Winnipeg Jets, as you said, 0 for 4, and I like how you said it. The first power play, they were taking it to the net, moving around, weren't generating those high-quality chances later on in the game on the power play that they were. And you mentioned, yes, big difference in special teams. Jets 0 for 4 on the power play, and Dallas 1 for 2. And the first period's winding down, and Cody Ceci gets a stick up on Nino Niederreiter, catches him in the face, and the Jets will start the second period on another power play. But after the first period, very clear to everyone in the building and everyone watching, a very, very different style of game than what we just witnessed. I wrote on my notes, feels a bit slow, not as much hitting. And just for comparison's sake, in the first period of Game 1 against St. Louis, the Jets had 14 hits, the Blues 32. And in this game, the Jets had 14 hits again in the first period, but Dallas had 10. And it certainly felt like that. And Dallas finished the game with 24 hits. And that's less than the hits that the Blues had in period 1 of Game 1. So I'm not sure if both teams are playing a different style or they both just played a 7-game series with the Jets going to double overtime. And, a bit of a letdown after that. But it was very obvious watching. It felt like different hockey than the last series.
100%. I got 4 or 5 messages on my phone after the first period saying, like, yawn, that was very boring. Like, I didn't personally think it was a boring period, but I did think, it was evident how different the style was going from St. Louis to this Dallas series, because St. Louis, their bottom 6 are all like the Lowry line, they're all grinders, they're all forecheckers, they're all going to hit. Dallas has a top 9 that is full of skill, full of talent. They were pulling away from hits. They're more looking to forecheck, knock pucks down with their stick instead of just run you through the glass. So it's a very different style. And I could see why fans were maybe thinking, wow, that was pretty boring, because it wasn't as physical. There wasn't as many chances, but it did look slow. Both of these teams were coming off of, very emotional highs, 2-goal deficits, comebacks in Game 7, both of them. And I think that first period contributed to it a little bit. But the physicality, really a story in the whole game. After the game, Nino Niederreiter said, this game was definitely less physical. And Scott O'Neill said it felt like Game 45 of the regular season, not Game 1 of Round 2 of the playoffs in terms of the physicality. So I think you'll see more from both teams in Game 2.
Yeah, I'm curious how this picks up as the series goes. And in the St. Louis series, it's fun to look back, but that Nathan Walker fax line, very effective, hitting a lot. And Dodonov and Sam Steele, not exactly those type of players. So the Jets started the second period on another power play. Nothing... didn't get a lot of chances, a lot of possession, but as you mentioned, got worse as the game went on. But with 16:30 left in the second, Nino Niederreiter picks up the puck in the offensive zone after Appleton chips it in and goes in and scores on the backhand. And, it's funny, I forgot to note, we're talking about shots on goals. Dallas started out, 9-0 on shots, and the Jets were, after their first power play, they were able to equal that. It was a more even game at that point, and it is the Jets striking first in the second period.
Yeah, and all the great saves that Jake Ottinger made in the first period, I thought we were heading towards a goalie duel, and you could argue that we did, that is what we saw on this night, but it was almost like, really? That's what he lets in? I think the backhand fooled him. Heck of a backhand from Nino Niederreiter, though, going post in, far side, coming off the rush. Really nice shots. Nino's third of the playoffs. He was a player coming into the entirety of that St. Louis series and throughout it was a player that we looked at for secondary scoring, and he brought it in this game, of course, opening the scoring for the Jets. But it was weird. The goalies were so dialed in the first period, and then Jake Ottinger kind of, from my vantage point, let in a softie. But as we know, Jake Ottinger absolutely shut the door in the third period, and we'll get to that eventually. But nice for Nino Niederreiter to chip in here for the Jets.
Yeah, and Dallas answers back very quickly, 11-17. Remaining, Sam Steele enters the zone. He peels back. He finds Dodonov for a one-timer, and Mikko Rantanen crashes the net, beats Sandberg to the rebound. Hrabchak, had a nice first save, but they weren't able to clean up the rebound, which they did for a majority of the evening.
Yeah, that is true. The Jets did do a really good job of that, and Connor Hrabchak did a really good job of not having rebounds for the Jets to clear either. And when there was, they were dialed into it. But this one, I agree. Mikko Rantanen gets his stick on this puck, pokes it in, and it's the Mikko Rantanen period. I mean, if we can get into the stats, he's going to score 2 more goals in this period, and we'll we'll dive into those too. But he's on an absolute tear right now. The Jets were all asked about him after the game, and they said, yeah, we need to shut him down. We need to know when he's on the ice. And this is one of those moments where Connor Hrabchak makes the first save. Jets need to clear that puck. And Connor Hrabchak obviously could swallow up that rebound as well. But yeah, Mikko Rantanen gets on the board, and it's a tie game.
Yeah, you really saw Mikko Rantanen go to work,
man,
in the second period, use that big body, and there he was getting to that. And, another power play opportunity for the Jets. Their third of the game. Jamie Benn hooks Mark Scheifele in the neutral zone. And they had to start with power play 2. Colin Miller, we saw that shot of his on display. The power play 1 had some time as well, but they really didn't have a lot of opportunities to score there.
Yeah, one thing I thought the Jets did really good on their first 2 power plays was getting Gabriel Velarde the puck at the side of the net, and you could tell that something was brewing there. I think the Stars maybe adjusted to that because Velarde was getting looks. He was getting net front on Jake Ottinger, doing his inside-out moves, and I think the Stars really honed in on that on the second 2 power plays, and I think that resulted in maybe the Jets' power play looking worse as the game went on.
What did you think of Neil Pionk filling in for Josh Morrissey? Pionk a right shot, Morrissey a left shot, maybe some adjustments there as they tend to work a lot on the left side.
Totally. Yeah, that could be. I do think that the Jets, no slight to Josh Morrissey or Neil Pionk, but the Jets defenseman is the least important part of that power play. I will say that going from a righty to a lefty did change the dynamic a little bit. I thought they worked the puck more on the Kyle Connor side than the Mark Scheifele side.
Yeah.
I don't know if that is because of the handedness. But yeah, if Josh Morrissey's back Friday, he'll go back right on that top unit. If not, Neil Pionk, I thought, did a fine job. Got some pucks through from the point as well. And yeah, I think it's up to the 4 other forwards to create, regardless of who that defenseman is there.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And here's Mikko Rantanen again with his second goal of the game, and just incredible work down low, retrieving the puck, getting it to the defenseman, and Thomas Harley puts it on net, and Rantanen just goes from the corner to the front of the net, and just a beautiful tip and no chance for Hellebuyck there.
Yeah, one thing that really impressed me about Mikko Rantanen, he obviously had the 3 goals, but his ability to shield players off of the puck and make passes, like as a playmaker, was like my jaw was on the floor with some of the passes he was making. And then he gets to the front of the net and makes a deflection like that. You see why he's a top 10 player in the NHL. And the Colorado Avalanche are probably kicking themselves on the couch right now that they traded this guy away and he somehow ended up back in the division. But yeah, Mikko Rantanen, what a period. And this deflection was, I initially thought this was a Connor Hrabchak one that he'd like to have back. I thought we were back there, but clearly Rantanen got a piece of this. And with a deflection of that magnitude, that close to the net, that'd be a tough one to stop. So.
Yeah, what really impressed me about that play is he beat his man using his big body in the corner, I believe it was Sandberg, and then beat him again to the front of the net, making that tip in. And it didn't look like he got a piece of it on first look, but on the replay you can see he got just enough, tipped it over, and it's 2-1 Dallas. And Dallas really pressuring the Jets after that. Some giveaways in the defensive zone that were hemmed in, and Hayden Fleury, who's in the lineup, a little cross-check on Tyler Seguin trying to get a rebound. And after that, on the power play, Matt Duchene finds Mikko Rantanen on the right side after a really nice zone entry, throws it on net. Roope Hintz, he's in front, but this went straight 5-hole, didn't it?
Yeah, I think it deflected off Dylan Sandberg, though. I thought that's what I saw on this replay. So that's why Connor Hrabchak maybe looked fooled. Obviously, Roope Hintz is backdoor, and Hrabchak has to be aware of that, so he's sliding there already, and it deflects off Dylan Sandberg and right through the 5-hole. This is really a tough bounce. Like, I thought Connor Hrabchak looked a lot better in this game. I thought he looked more like himself. And this one is just... I don't really know how you can plan for that, where the pass is going backdoor, so you're sliding there, and then it deflects 5-hole. I don't know. Do you agree that
it's a tough one? It's a really tough play because Roope Hintz there's no one around him.
He's wide open backdoor.
He's wide open for the backdoor. So, you don't get a lot of replays up there, so I'm not sure if it got deflected off Sandberg or not. But
I thought it did.
That would make sense. And Mikko Rantanen with the natural hat trick there in the second period. And became the first player in nearly 40 years with a hat trick in consecutive playoff games. Third time in NHL history, Yari Curry in 1985 and Doug Bentley in 1944. And at this point, Mikko Rantanen has factored in each of the team's last 12 goals, the longest streak by a player in Stanley Cup Playoffs history. He entered the game tied with Mario Lemieux, who had 9 straight playoff goals in the 92 Penguins. So we just saw history made here tonight. And, I mean, he's got hat tricks in in the last 3 periods. The third period of Game 7 and the second period of Game 1.
Unbelievable. And it's not the good kind of history. We saw history with the latest Game 7 tying goal on Sunday. Yeah. This is the wrong type of history if you're a Jets fan. Mikko Rantanen, what a special player. I guess if there's any silver lining to this, I thought the Jets did a really good job shutting down everyone not named Mikko Rantanen in this game, but he took over in that second period, and that ended up being the game. And Dallas's power play was over 30% coming into the series as well. They obviously get their third goal there is on the power play. So that's something the Jets will have to hone in on for Game 2, slowing down not only Mikko Rantanen, but Dallas's special teams. Both of them came into this series with the advantage over Winnipeg, and they'll look to regain that advantage going forward.
Yeah, didn't see a lot of Wyatt Johnson.
Yeah, he had that one chance in the first, but other than that,
Matt Duchene had the assist on that goal, but I agree that, you didn't see a lot from many of the other Dallas Stars. Mikko Rantanen, very noticeable. Rupe Hintz, solid as well, playing with him, but, Rantanen scoring, 2 of the 5-on-5 goals with the fourth line, so double shifting him. The Jets credit, they're down 3-1, and they responded right away. So really nice forechecking by Gabe Vilardi. Finds Mark Scheifele, who's entering the zone on a line change, and no one's around him. He's all alone in the slot and just buries it. Past Ottinger. Nice play that first line, which was the most dangerous line for the Jets all night.
Yeah, welcome back, Mark Scheifele. This was a heck of a shot. One Jake Ottinger, I mean, his defense turns the puck over, and Mark Scheifele's wide open in the slot, so you're not looking for a save there. But yeah, I really like the forecheck here from Gabe Vilardi, a hound on the puck, and then getting the pass through some sticks to Mark Scheifele. In our series preview with Grav, you can check that out on the WST channel. He mentioned that the Stars that let up a lot of their goals from these low to high passes and off the forecheck. So if the Jets can really improve upon that, there were some moments in this game, and this was one of them, where they would get the Stars defense pinned deep, turn pucks over, and gain possession off of that. And this was, I mean, it doesn't get more direct off the forecheck than this, where you steal a puck, you get it to a guy right wide open in the slot, and he scores. Obviously, it's not going to be that simple every single game, but if the Jets can do more of that going forward, I think that's the best way to beat this Dallas defense core.
I mean, the game's kind of even. Now, the shots that period, Jets 8, Dallas 7. The total shots, Jets 21, Dallas 20. But the big difference, which we mentioned, special teams, Dallas 1 for 1 on the power play, and Jets 0 for 3. Heading into the third period, the Jets down 3-2, and they started off a nice chance there with Scheifele and Connor on a 2-on-1. And Mikko Rantanen, he was making plays all night, finds Hintz for a nice chance. But at this point, early on, they switched the lines up. You got Nemesnikov with Niederreiter and Perfetti, and then Ehlers, Lowry, and Appleton. What did you make of the line changing there in the third period?
Yeah, one thing that I thought, like Mikko Rantanen scored his 2 5-on-5 goals with the fourth line being double shifted. I didn't think the Lowry line was doing as good a job as they could shutting down that top line against Hintz. Scott O'Neill would have disagreed with me if we had that conversation after the game. We didn't. But Scott O'Neill did say he thought that the Lowry line did good against Hintz. But I thought this move was to get Nikolai Ehlers with Adam Lowry going up against Mikko Rantanen and possessing the puck in the offensive zone more, as opposed to just simply trying to play defense and shut them down. That's what I took this move as. Did it work? I thought so. I thought Ehlers and Lowry created some good chances. Ehlers had one of the Jets' best looks in the period, stepping to a backhand right in the slot and just missed. So whether or not we see that for Game 2 will be interesting, but I thought it was to counteract what the Hintz line was doing at 5-on-5, but Scott O'Neill said after the game that he liked what the Lowry line was doing, so I'm not really sure then.
Yeah, Nikolai Ehlers, what did you think of his second game back? Third
game back.
What did you think of his third game back? Last game, it seemed like he was really fighting the puck, bouncing off his stick many times. But tonight I thought he was skating really well. He set up some teammates for some nice passes that they weren't able to handle. He had DeMello for a nice one-timer opportunity near the end, found Appleton. I thought he was playing well, but still isn't at 100%.
Yeah, he was definitely fighting the puck less tonight than he was in Game 6 and 7. And I thought his legs, like his skating, was a lot better in this game. I thought he was moving. Typical Nikolai Ehlers. Not to say that he didn't look fast in Game 6 and 7. He still had spurts, but there were multiple moments in this game where Cody Ceci bobbled the puck, and you could just tell that Nikolai Ehlers was going to burn him, and he did. And he got to the front of the net, and he generated chances. And yes, he's still bobbling pucks. He's still turning pucks over. That's That's the Nikolai Ehlers experience, is turnovers in some spots, trying to do a little bit too much. He's done that his whole career, but I thought he fought the puck a little bit less tonight, and his legs looked better, so that'll be a big thing to watch going forward.
Yeah, there's maybe some miscommunication at times with him and Fetty, loop it, trying to do a little crisscrossing the offensive zone. I do wonder how, as the series goes on, Vilardi and Ehlers, do they start looking more like themselves?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The Jets took a penalty. Jason Robertson skates into Gabriel Vilardi as Hayden Fleury's, breaking out. Mm-hmm. I don't know what you made of that call. That Vilardi didn't seem to like it too much. I think Robertson ran into him. Maybe he got the elbow out. I'm not sure.
Yeah. I thought we were going to see the Oscar Sundqvist Gabe Vilardi embellishment call. Do you remember that from the St. Louis series where he ran into him and then Sundqvist fell back and it was embellishment? I don't know if that was Vilardi, actually.
It was.
Was Vilardi? Okay. So I thought we were going to see the same thing because it was kind of the same play. But I think Vilardi definitely, as he's skating up the ice, raises his arm and tries to get in the way. So that is interference. Whether or not you want to justify calling that the third period of a playoff game, that is the conversation, I think. But I think it was interference.
Yeah, well, it was definitely interference.
Yeah.
And later on the power play, Dylan DeMello and Rupe Hintz get tangled up after the Jets clear it. I don't know what happened. What you couldn't really see was so behind the play, but DeMello really fired up, jumped on Hintz, and ripped off his helmet. I mean, that's the first kind of emotion that you've seen, that hate between these teams. It's only game one. It just seemed against St. Louis, it was happening right away and more frequently.
Yeah, I agree. This was the first really scrum where players were fighting. And post whistle stuff, every single whistle in the St. Louis series, guys were punching each other, taking helmets off, whatever, taking roughing penalties. That wasn't really happening in this series, so it's going to be interesting to watch that evolution, because make no mistake, the physicality is going to ramp up. The hatred's going to ramp up. It's only game one. Both these teams are coming off of emotional game 7 wins, but we'll see more of that going forward, I think.
Yeah, well, later on, Tyler Seguin gets a 2-minute high sticking penalty with 14:14 remaining, and you have to think, okay, the Jets, they've gone 0 for 3 on the power play. This is the time to take advantage. Gabriel Vilardi gets out of the box, and they really had nothing. I think Kyle Connor had one shot, and they end up 0 for 4 on the power play this evening.
Yeah. And that is what I said off the top was the biggest story, in my opinion, was the Jets got their 4 power play forwards back. That was the top unit going in to the playoffs, the number one in the regular season, and it just hasn't really delivered in the postseason, the power play. And yes, the players have been out. Players have, re-entered the lineup, like Gabriel Vilardi, who was out for an extended period of time, along with Nikolai Ehlers. But having all 4 forwards back, the rhythm, they were clearly out of rhythm as the game went on, or got less in rhythm, or maybe it showed more. But that's something the Jets will have to improve on going forward, because Dallas's power play is lethal. Their penalty kill has been great. They need to have that advantage, especially on home ice here for the power play.
Yeah, and so the Jets, final 5 minutes of the game, as I mentioned, Ehlers fed DeMello, missed with the one-timer, and there was a huge save with 2:43 remaining. Dylan DeMello gets tripped behind the net, and Mikko Rantanen finds Rupe Hintz, who tries to go to the far side. Hellebuyck slides over and gets in the glove, and just a massive save late in the game from Connor Hrabchak.
Yeah, 100%. And that was one I tweeted out at the time. If they come back, that's the save that you remember, is with 2:43 left. If the Jets pull off this Manitoba miracle once again, that's the save that we're going to look back on. But ultimately, they did not do that in this game. And I thought Jake Ottinger made some big stops in these final 2:43 as well. There was a big goal front scramble where Ottinger, Ehlers and Vilardi both had a whack at it, and it was Esa Lindell who made a kick save in the crease, and DeMello had a whiff on a one-timer opportunity where Ottinger was clearly slow to react to it. The Jets were coming into the zone. It was a really nice play. DeMello just missed on the one-timer, and then Mark Scheifele had a chance late with the net empty as well that Ottinger made a big save on. So Jake Ottinger, full marks to him. He was the Stars' second best player in this game, because obviously Mikko Rantanen had a hat trick, but Jake Ottinger was fantastic in this one.
Yeah, the Winnipeg Jets finished with 32 shots. Dallas 24, and you thought it was going to happen. Manitoba Miracle Part 2. You had flashbacks, but couldn't quite get one past Ottinger. Yeah, the Scheifele tip off a Pionk shot, and I think he had one from the side of the net. So Ottinger is certainly solid, and the power play special teams, as we've said, all show certainly the difference. And you're just looking at, we can go through some of the time on ice if you want. Neil Pionk had the record, not record, but very high ice time last game. But again, he's the leader, 25:08. A lot of that on the power play. Samberg, 22:30. Luke Shen, 10:54. Colin Miller getting back into the lineup, 17:56. Hayden Fleury, 17:03. And DeMello, 18:44. We can go on the forwards. The high, Gabriel Vardy, 22:15. Scheifele, 22:36. Connor, 23:43. I think a lot of that is because of the 4 power plays.
Yeah, 100%. And yeah, you knew that Samberg and Pionk were going to play a big role. Not only did they play a massive role on Sunday in the Game 7 win because Josh Morrissey went out, but Josh Morrissey remained out for this game. So that was the Jets' de facto top pairing in this one. And I thought Samberg and Pionk played well. I think the other 2 pairs struggled to move the puck up the ice at times, but Samberg and Pionk I thought were steady throughout the game. And definitely the Jets' best pair, but that's not groundbreaking. They were their top pair.
Yeah, they're going to have to rely on those guys as the top pair. As long as Josh Morrissey is out, we'll have to wait and see if there's updates on him throughout the week. How about this? Shots on goal, Mark Scheifele leading the team with 7, Gabriel Vardy with 5. So some big numbers there. And again, a lot of the power play time. This was the first home playoff loss, and the first playoff loss that they've had where you didn't have like a 3-minute period where you gave up 4 goals. It felt like a competitive game throughout, and if things are different on special teams for them, maybe we go to overtime, maybe they have a lead. Who knows? But I thought you can be happy with the way that they played.
I think you can as well, and I think that that's definitely the glass half full approach. As the Jets, I thought were the better team in this game. Jake Ottinger was incredible. I mean, the Jets' power play went 0 for 4. That's obviously an area you'd like to see improve. I think the glass half empty approach is that this was a very winnable game. They were the better team. Their power play let them down. Miro Heiskanen is going to come back in this series at some point for Dallas. And like Scott O'Neill said after the game, they just gave away home ice advantage. The Jets are going to have to win a game on the road if they want to win this series. So it's going to be interesting because Miro Heiskanen is going to come back. Josh Morrissey is going to come back in this series at some point as well. He skated in a regular jersey at morning skate. So maybe he'll be back Friday, maybe later on in the series. But this was a very winnable game where the Jets power play let them down, a few bad bounces one way or the other. And the intensity just wasn't high enough, in my opinion, from either team. Not just the Jets, but both teams. I agree with Scott O'Neill's assessment that it looked and felt a little bit like a regular season game out there at times.
Yeah, well, I like that glass half full, glass half empty. I think you really hit the nail.
Do that after every game. Let's do it.
I think you really hit the nail on the head there. Well, we've said it all, and hey, if you made it this far, hit the like button, subscribe to our channel. We're live on Winnipeg Sports Talk Daily, 1 p.m. weekdays on YouTube, available on podcast after. All the links in the description. So for Connor Hrabchak, I'm Michael Remis. This has been the WST Post Game Reaction.